And so Rick Scott, who
great.
is one of the biggest Zion Nazis and our esteemed United States Senator from Florida, decided that he was going to make a video the other day, supposedly about daylight savings time.
Right.
But I'll let you decide for yourself what this video is really about.
Senator Rick Scott here. I hear from Americans, it seems like every day, they're sick and tired of changing their clocks back and forth. I mean, we need to lock the clock. Now we have President Trump in the White House. He agrees. Lock the clock. I have a bill. It's called the Sunshine Protection Act, which would lock the clock.
Of all the things that he wants to focus on, he
Wow.
Because it's very important that we eliminate an extra hour of daylight, because that's important. Could you imagine having this shoved in your face so hard? I'm sorry, Rick, were you talking? I couldn't hear you over that flag over the side of your head.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, let him continue discussing daylight savings. It's so critical.
And stop
this is important.
Ever changing twice a year. So let's make sure this is the last time we have to change our clocks.
Well, keep in mind that a guy who's worth $300+ million, this is what he prioritizes.
Okay, but you need to talk about the comment. But anyway, Karen and Dennis, what when you're watching this, are you thinking about daylight savings time?
It's funny. I was actually going to click on that. I had just seen it because I'm not a big fan of it. And so I said, oh, what's he got to say about daylight savings time? And I didn't open it. And that is shocking. And there's no place for that, really. Why are they signaling? Most people in America don't care about Israel. Honestly, they don't. They assume that Israel is a friend or an ally. And they don't give it a lot of thought. And of course, as they find out about what they're doing in Gaza, they sympathize with the Gazans. I mean, the numbers show where Americans' hearts are. But this Zionist messaging that comes out of Washington, carrying the water, by these guys carrying the water for Israel, it just makes me think, what do they have on Rick Scott? I mean, we know what they have on Lindsey Graham. You know what they have on some of the other guys. What do they have on Rick Scott? I'm curious. That's my question.
Well, first
I
of all,
think he's just a Zion Nazi. No?
Yeah. Well,
Dennis?
There's no doubt in my mind there. But let me just first say, hey, Peter and Jen, thanks for having us back on. It's always good to see Karen again. Let me just first say this. We know what his intentions were because that was the first thing I noticed was the flag. I forgot all about daylight saving times and everything. I just noticed the flag. And so that was intentionally. The next thing I will say, I'm not surprised because I spent a lot of time on the Hill this past summer. And it was so shocking to see every office I went by and you saw so many Israeli flags posted outside of members' offices. And that just was so disappointing. And so we know what the intentions are. I will say Rick Scott is truly a Zionist, and he's not, hiding that. Another thing that Karen mentioned, I would like to mention, she alluded to this. I sometimes get so frustrated in thinking that we're not making a difference. But I can tell you from, I saw something the other day from a recent Gallup poll, and you would be surprised to hear if you didn't know this, that the Israeli support is down by a lot, and it's down, I guess, in 25 years. This is the lowest that support of Israel has been. And so it makes me feel good that we are truly, making a difference. It's just taking some time, but we're getting there. More people, thanks to social media, are supporting and seeing what's happening in Gaza, which we've known and Karen has known, for years from our time in the Pentagon. And so I do feel a lot better. Let me just say this, got me started now. You talk about Israel, because there's nothing that made me get on fire then. I'm sure y'all may have talked about it some week and a half or two ago when Trump had the nerve to present this AI video talking about Trump Gaza. And if you're talking about you want to blow up the Middle East, and then you had the nerve to have the most hated man in the Muslim and Arab world being Bibi Netanyahu laying back on the beach, allegedly in Gaza, what nerve. And I got to tell you, I'll get this out right now, as I've told a couple of audiences in the last couple of weeks. Some of them felt uncomfortable. But I think the only way we're going to resolve this issue, even with my peaceful mind and heart, is that an all-out war in the Middle East to bring Israel to the table. And right now, I don't think Bibi Netanyahu and Israel have a better friend than Trump right now.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this, because I've never served, but I have obviously a lot of respect for people that do that. But not only the Israeli flag, but there's also this people like Brian Mast that'll wear their IDF uniform into the Capitol. And I'm curious, like, as people who have served, like, how is that okay?
Yeah, it's not okay. It's not okay. And, we have some opportunities, or at least in Congress, there are, Thomas Massey comes to mind. He wants to, I think he's proposed legislation, and probably not the first time, to eliminate dual citizenship. And that is not talking about Israel per se, but we know that the most dual citizens we have in our Congress and elsewhere in this country are dual Israeli American passport holders. So he wants to eliminate that, and very much just like you have to freeze, or you're supposed to freeze your investment portfolio, et cetera, when you become a congressperson. You would have to deactivate your secondary passport to another country while you're serving. It's not like it's not it's just a job requirement. Anyway, That has got shot down before, but he still continues to bring it up. And of course, the other big issue, and this is the one that has been going on since the 1960s, is AIPAC needs to be registered under FARA. It is a foreign. What's the second part of FARA? It's anyway,
Federal Foreign Agents Registration Act.
Yes, foreign agent. So AIPAC, biggest lobby. There's others, but AIPAC's probably the one pretty mostly embedded in DC, and it has a huge amount of power. It's a foreign agent, so it needs to be registered as a foreign agent, and that means that the people that deal with them or are approached by them, depending on their job, will have to report. I've been contacted by a foreign agent, and the Foreign Agent Registration Act allows visibility into their activities, and that includes their money. It's funny. I'll quit in a second, but the Doge thing. It's like, well, he's looking in, Musk's looking into this and that. He's finding money in accounts and payments that are going to people that aren't people, or agencies that shouldn't be getting them, whatever. When you follow the money, that's what FARA will allow you to do with AIPAC. It will allow all of us as Americans and the FBI and whoever else is interested to follow the money. And when you see a guy like Rick Scott, okay, 300 million, apparently not enough, because that's at risk if he doesn't, promote Zionism. What business does he have? Except in Florida. Obviously, he wants some votes from the pro-Zionist sector, but that's not all of Florida. He doesn't need that. We haven't always had governors of Florida that pander to, Israel's government. It's not necessary, but he feels that it is, and we should follow money. It's money and it's blackmail.
And we have an inexplicable problem going on right now in a special election that Jen and I, on the down low, think is not likely to go in the direction that it should. But of course, it's also not being handled very well in terms of its messaging. But what I can tell you is that this particular individual, his name is Randy Fine. He may be the worst legislator in all of Florida.
He's horrible.
He represents the Space Coast region of Central Florida, which is WASP across the board.
Wow.
And this guy is as big of an Israel suck-off as you can possibly be.
Oh, my God.
It has no relevance whatsoever to this congressional district.
He was one of the people that pushed our state legislation, which it passed, that anti-Zionist is anti-Semitic resolution nonsense that they did at the federal level. We had that also at our state level. He's one of those. This is one of those people like pro-war, anti-choice, like this is who we're looking at having.
So this was the tweet that we were engaged with this person earlier today. Jen, how do you say his name?
Eyal
Jacobi. So that's a big dog. What is the relevance of Eyal Jacobi? Well, he is a early 20s MIT to be student, graduate of UPenn, and he is as loud and vocal of a pro-Israel supporter as you can possibly be. Now, his trajectory is one that was basically gifted to him by his Israeli father, who was a tenured professor at Rutgers and grew up in Princeton, basically grew up in a life of true privilege. And now this is one of the most active pro-Israel accounts on all of social media. This guy is constantly in the presence of Netanyahu as well as Trump.
Who's he referring to when his tweet says, follow the law or get out of our country? Not sure why this is complicated for people to grasp.
So it's going to be a transition into the conversation about Mahmoud Khalil, because he is Eyal. He was a very vocal supporter in the ICE detainment of Mahmoud Khalil. And so, yeah, probably that'd be more appropriate. And so as a result, he's out there making these statements. And of course, I responded on behalf of Jen and I to say, great, it's time for Israel and its lobby to follow the law and register as a foreign agent.
But here's the problem with that, which I was about to say what Esme said. Esme, great minds, hon. What the law is that technically they are following it, and that's part of the problem, but continue.
Well, it's saying, what does that, well, this person says, what does that even mean? Any contributions from Israel are registered with the U.S. government under FARA. That is not true. Why do you freaks always lie? Well, again, look in the mirror. Incorrect. AIPAC is not registered under FARA. And I told him to go back to school. And so as a response, he said,
he's fooling you, because this is why sometimes I get frustrated about not knowing what goes on social media. This is the problem with saying that it's
what is the intention of the Israel lobby?
You're missing the point. The law, that's why FARA, in my opinion, the best way to solve it is to change FARA. So it isn't just about where the money comes from. It includes what they're lobbying on behalf of. Right now, what we have is the way that AIPAC gets away with it is all their money and all their people are American people. It's Americans that are doing it and Americans that are paying for it, for in the best interest of American Jews is their relationship with Israel.
That's what they're
change FARA.
That's what they're claiming, but that's not what they're doing.
Hey, let me just
I understand that, but when
please, Dennis.
No, let me just jump in and say one thing that we mentioned earlier when they talk about American citizens. Remember what we talked about earlier, dual citizens. If you look at, first of all, this dark money, you don't know where it's coming from, but we're talking about dual citizens who are, guess what? Israeli citizens as well, that are making a large portion of these donations. So we need to keep that in mind too. That American citizen is used, to say American citizens, but they're really working on behalf of Israel.
But even if they weren't, let's say all of their money is coming from U.S. accounts. And that's how we do it for elections. That's how we do it for everything. If it's coming from U.S. accounts, then that's legitimate. So they're claiming, and what'll end up happening is they'll just change the name of their PAC. And
which they've done before.
It'll just be like, right. And they'll make it sound less like connected to Israel, and it'll still be doing what it's doing. But that's why the rule needs to be changed, which is perfect. Goes back to what Esme was asking. That's the problem with FARA.
So what should happen?
Well, in my opinion, it needs to be changed so that it includes organizations lobbying for and in the interest of other nations, even though they are citizens here and the money is coming from here. Like, it's technicalities like that let them slide through. That's the point.
I'm not questioning whether or not they have an army of attorneys that know exactly how to skirt the law.
That's all I'm saying. Just don't say things are don't say things are illegal. See, he posts like he's me, but he's not.
I didn't say that. I never said it was illegal. I did not say that at all.
It was that they weren't following the law.
Well, technically they're not, because if you look under the hood of the car, you would know that the full intention of the Israel lobby is to further the interests of Israel, not the interests of America.
But wait a minute. But
you're talking like a lawyer now. That's the problem.
No, and the other problem is that I would suggest that Israel is us and us is Israel. And so what's in the best interest of Israel is really empire. So that's what's in empire's interest, or what they view as in their interest. So I think those are intertwined.